The sound of a newborn baby crying is the most beautiful sound in the world. It is the sound of hope, the sound of love being born, the sound of a miracle breathing its first breath. But sometimes, in the middle of the greatest joy of your life, the universe whispers something that stops your heart cold. This is one of those stories. The delivery room at St. Mercy Hospital was filled with the kind of energy that only exists in two places on earth: inside a church during prayer, and inside a hospital when a life is about to begin. Margaret Collins lay on the hospital bed, exhausted and trembling, her dark hair soaked with sweat, her knuckles white from squeezing the metal railing beside her. She had been in labor for 11 hours. 11 long, painful, terrifying hours. Beside her, holding her hand so tightly that his own fingers had gone numb, was her husband, Daniel Collins. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, with kind brown eyes that were now red from crying, not from sadness, from joy. Pure, overwhelming, earth-shaking joy. Because today, after 6 years of trying, after 3 rounds of IVF treatment, after more heartbreak than any two people should ever have to carry, today was the day. Today, Margaret and Daniel were finally becoming parents. Not to one baby, to 2 twins. The room erupted. "She's here," the nurse called out, her voice cracking with emotion as she held up the first baby, a tiny, pink, perfect little girl, screaming her lungs out at the unfairness of being born into such a cold, bright world. Daniel pressed both hands over his mouth. His entire body shook. "And him," said Dr. Ellison quietly, cradling the second baby, a boy, smaller than his sister but just as loud, just as furious, just as alive. Margaret was sobbing before she even saw their faces. "Are they okay?" she kept asking, her voice breaking on every word. "Are they okay? Are they healthy?" "They're beautiful," the nurse said, placing the little girl against Margaret's chest. Daniel leaned down, his forehead touching Margaret's, both of them looking at this tiny face, this impossible miracle. And for a moment, just one perfect, golden moment, everything in the world was exactly right. Daniel kissed Margaret's forehead. "We did it," he whispered. 6 years, Maggie. We finally did it." She laughed and cried at the same time. "They're real," she whispered back. "They're actually real." Dr. Nathan Ellison stood at the side of the room, gloves still on, watching the family with the quiet smile of a man who had delivered hundreds of babies, but never quite gotten used to this part. The part where broken people became whole again. He instructed the nurses to begin the standard post-delivery checks: weight, length, APGAR scores, blood type. He stepped out briefly to review the paperwork, and when he came back, his expression had changed. Just slightly, just enough. He stood at the counter for a long time, looking at the 2 charts in his hands. His jaw was tight. He read the numbers again, then a third time, as if hoping they would rearrange themselves into something that made sense. They didn't. He called for the senior nurse quietly. She came. He showed her the chart. She looked at him. He looked at her. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Then she said softly, "Doctor, are you sure?" He nodded once. She pressed her lips together and left the room. Dr. Ellison walked slowly back toward the Collins family. Daniel was holding his son now, rocking him gently, laughing at something the baby was doing with his tiny fist. Margaret was watching them both with the most peaceful, radiant expression, the expression of a woman who had finally exhaled after holding her breath for 6 years. Dr. Ellison stood at the foot of the bed. "Daniel," he said. "Margaret." Something in his voice made them both look up immediately. Daniel noticed first the doctor's face, the careful, measured stillness of it, the way he was holding the clipboard just a little too tightly. "What is it?" Daniel asked. His voice was still warm, still riding the wave of joy. He hadn't landed yet. He didn't know he was about to. Dr. Ellison pulled a chair to the bedside and sat down. That small gesture, sitting down, lowering himself to their level,